The Cleveland Cavaliers, 48-34, fourth seed in the East, defeated the Orlando Magic in 7 games before losing to Boston in the second round. Um, Really, when it comes to Cleveland, there's sort of one big giant conversation. It's about their sort of core four guys: Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, and Jared Allen. And you know, those guys got paid actually during the offseason. Like Mitchell signs with a 3 year, 150-ish million contract with the player option in 2027, 28. That is something to keep an eye out because that was a big sort of talking discussion point during the offseason of is Mitchell going to leave, go to New York, but he re-signed. He says he wants to be in Cleveland, so you have him for a few more years, and that's great. Evan Mobley gets a 5 year, $224 million deal. That's a bit expensive. Like, he's a rookie. He was a number two overall pick, and everyone sort of loved this idea of like, or sorry, not number two. He was number three overall pick, and it's sort of like, oh, you feel like you need to pay your players. Evan Mobley's been a good player, great defensively, and he actually started improving during the playoffs when Jared Allen was out. But I don't think he's worth that money. I question if he's ever going to be worth that money, and that is a lot to commit to a guy who is kind of iffy as a 3 point shooter and like is a little bit raw offensively. And maybe he gets better this year, but that's still a lot of money. Other sort of money. Jared Allen, 3 years, 91 million extension. Like that's also like a bit. It's not overpriced for Jared Allen. Like he's certainly a great player, and he now has a head coach in Kenny Atkinson, who he has a lot of history with from their days in Brooklyn. But it's a little bit worrisome because it feels like Mobley's kind of considered the future of the franchise, and Allen's like the present. And playing them together gets a little iffy. When you play Jared Allen and Evan Mobley together, last season they were half a point per 100 possessions better with the two on the floor. But when it was one of them on the floor, they were 3.7 points per 100, and that's kind of indicative of the difference. Playing two spinners who don't space the floor, it's hard to win in the league, even with all the size and all the defense. Other news and notes for Cleveland in terms of stats. They were 20-12 with all their starters, but they actually had a negative point differential, very slightly negative, and they were 33-29 when not all five of them played. It's kind of a bit much. And in terms of other combinations, with Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell, the Cavs were 2.1 points per 100 better, and they were 9.2 points per 100 better when it was only one of them on the floor. Like that combination of those four, it's like two sort of pairs of guys that are a bit redundant. Garland and Mitchell, Allen and Mobley. And if I'm Kenny Atkinson, that's the first thing I need to figure out. Because JB Bickerstaff, he gets fired after this season despite winning the win total improving every season for Cleveland and then winning 48 games. Now it's Kenny Atkinson's turn to sort of figure out how to you have to stagger them, trade them, like whatever you're gonna do. It's kind of hard. You can't really get like a fifth guy. There's already enough money tied up, and you can't really trade draft picks because Utah owns Cleveland's draft pick. So really, you're gonna have to figure out which of the four guys is staying and which of the four are going. I'm kind of indifferent on it. I think Mitchell's better than Garland, and I think there is an argument to keep Mobley. There's also an argument to keep Allen. Um, Darius Garland would be my sort of question mark because he did miss a lot of games last season with like a bunch of injuries. He missed with back, ankle, jaw, and neck and hamstring. And he's actually never played 70 games. Like even last year, it was like 60 something games. Like that, it's hard to sort of win when one of your best players is like out a lot. And maybe he plays better this year if he has less injuries. I don't know. He's still an undersized guard who doesn't defend all that well, along with another undersized guard who doesn't defend all that well. Although Mitchell can in spurts, but it's hard to sort of have these redundancies on your team. As for the rest of the team, I would like to see another center because yeah, Mobley and Allen are going to stagger that position, but I want to see another center that isn't Tristan Thompson. Like if you're playing Tristan Thompson, you have issues. You have serious issues. I also want to see a little bit more size in the backcourt, especially because Garland and Mitchell are a little undersized, and they just re-signed Isaac Okoro. To me, that's nuts. 3 years, 38 for Isaac Okoro is too much. That dude should be out of the league straight up. I don't care that his 3 point shot has improved. He is undersized, and he's never going to be a starter on a winning title team. It's just not going to happen. As great as Cleveland is, and sure, Cleveland maybe could sneak into the title contention race this year, but I think more likely than not, they're another sort of second round exit, like a 4 or 5 seed. Like everything would have to sort of align perfectly for them to even sniff like the 2 or 3 seed. But I think it's somewhere in the 4 to 6, maybe 7 range for them. Um, Figure out the sort of size. I think one more sort of forward would be good. They're okay on forwards, but like Dean Wade, who would be really valuable for them, never stays healthy. And, it's hard to win again when you have injuries all the time to some of your best players. And, I didn't even mention the fact that the five stars, Garland, Mobley, Mitchell, Allen, and Max Strus, they missed a combined 101 games last season. It's impressive that they won 48 games in spite of that, but it's hard to win if your guys don't stay healthy. Jared Allen missed a bunch of time last season, and again, a lot of health concerns, size concerns with center. Cavs, they got better rebounding last season, but it needs to improve still a little further. And again, Kenny Atkinson needs to sort of figure this out. There's a lot of speculation that because he was the assistant coach on the French national team and they opted to bench Gobert midway through the tournament and have Victor Wembanyama start at center, that maybe Kenny's going to do the same thing again, but maybe he's not with Jared Allen being that sort of the history, as I mentioned before. So if I'm Kenny Atkinson, I have a lot of challenges to figure out, but if Cleveland ever puts it together, they certainly have a lot of talent. They have great defense. They have enough shooting, I think, without the Allen and Mobley problem. And if either one of them ever learns to properly shoot, I actually do think the sky's the limit. And, they have a big four of like guys who are potential all-stars and a superstar type in Donovan Mitchell. Like, who knows? Maybe they become a one seed, but I think if they're going to become a one seed, it's going to have to be when Mobley gets better in like a year or two.